Liftoff.
All right, so The Fountain. This was Izzy's pick. Yeah, this is your pick, so we'll kick it off with the initial thoughts, and we will start with you.
Okay.
Mr. Izzy.
My initial thoughts of this movie, first time I saw it, was that it was...
Real quick, before you do, how many times have you seen it?
A lot. It's one of my favorite films. Yeah, I've got it like almost memorized. Yeah. So, but when I first watched it, I rented it. There was like a video store near our house. I walked over looking for something a little heady and serious. You know what I mean? My taste in film was starting to shift into that, like pretty permanently at that point. So I was, just watching movies alone, basically, pretty much. So it was one of the movies that like really cemented my taste in movies intentionally. Right? I went out and looked for something like this, rented it, watched it. Was like, I love that. Right. So my first impressions of it were that it was, artsy. You know what I mean? To use like a kind of a slang term, but like at that point, that's what I thought of it. I'm sure that's what my parents would think of it if they watched it. What's this artsy thing you're watching? You know what I mean? Like, even though it's like Hugh Jackman, I also wasn't familiar with him, or like I knew Rachel Weisz from The Mummy, I think. And as weird as and like kitschy as that movie is, I thought her acting was really good. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember seeing her in Enemy at the Gates too, or I think that's what it's called, right? The Jude Law one, where he's like a sniper from like World War I or something, and she's in that. And I remember thinking her line delivery was good. So I was kind of like ready to watch it. But first impressions was that it was artistic. I noticed that there was like a sepia filter all over everything, and I didn't hate it. I thought I was gonna, but I ended up liking it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking about how unconventional the soundtrack sounded at my first impression, because there was like kind of a band playing. You know what I mean? Inside the soundtrack, and that sounded weird to me, and I didn't know if that's where soundtracks were going to go yet. You know what I mean? So it just felt new. It felt like a modern film to me that was trying to take itself very seriously. So I guess that's like the short version of my first impressions. I was like, wow, is this where film is headed? Like, and I was still trepidatious about it. Like when I first saw it, I might have ended up giving it a lower score than I give it now, right? Because it felt like film was finding its sea legs artistically in a mainstream way. Right. And I was there for it. Right. So I was also kind of like, I don't know, is this what that is? So I guess I don't want to take up too much time, but that's kind of like, that probably sounds so esoteric and like heady, but like, that's definitely what my first impressions were, I was like, curious. Right. Curious about where film was headed and what my taste in film was becoming. That's really like, this film is like the linchpin for that kind of experience for me. So,
okay. Jarrett, initial thoughts?
So when you first brought it up last week, I said, "Ooh, we're going artsy," and I think
did you say that?
Yeah,
I don't remember. That.
And I think and you said, "Do you know who's in it?" And I said, "Brad Pitt, right?" And you said, "No."
Oh, you were thinking of a different movie. That's right.
I was thinking of Fountain of Life, No, Tree of Life. And that did have Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah.
So I remember the critics saying that was like an art house film that was hard to grasp the concept of, kind of convoluted, but it was by a well-respected director, and it was starring Brad Pitt. And I watched this movie, and it was way different because it was a movie about the Fountain of Youth, and it was an art house movie, and it was convoluted and hard to understand, and it was by an acclaimed director, and it starred Hugh Jackman.
Right.
Very similar. Like they came out around the same time, I think. And
Ash is saying that like Brad Pitt was actually scheduled to be in this movie, and he
weird.
Out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you might not be confusing it with someone, but
no, I'm pretty sure I was. Tree of Life.
Did that come out around this time? Tree of Life?
I think. Well, I mean, within 5 years, one way or the other. I think. I never saw that one either, but I was turned off of both of them just because of what I read. It was hard to.
It's 2011.
And this one is what?
And when did this is like 2000, like this is right early 2000s, right? Huh?
2006.
Okay, so yeah, within 5 years, like I said. I don't know. Yeah, I really wanted to dig it, but I couldn't get into it. I struggled to care about the characters and the story. I was glad that it was only an hour and a half, because honestly, it felt longer than the last movie we saw, which was 2.5 hours.
The Legend of 1900. It felt longer than that to you.
To me, it did.
You didn't care about his dying wife at all.
Well, I mean, yes, but I'm wondering if I just am not an Aronofsky fan, because the only other movie I saw of his is Black Swan.
You didn't see Pi?
See what?
Pi?
No.
Or Requiem for a Dream. You haven't seen any of that stuff?
I did not see that one.
Oh boy, okay.
I didn't see
uncultured swine.
I didn't see the. I didn't.
That's what we're dealing with here.
See the Wrestler. I didn't see the Wrestler. I didn't see Noah.
God, you haven't seen it. So you haven't seen any of his films. You've seen none, and then you're like, I don't like Aronofsky.
No,
Are you serious? Are you actually serious right now?
I didn't.
Maybe I don't like Aronofsky. I haven't seen any of his movies at all, but maybe I don't like him.
Somebody got called out.
I told you I saw Black Swan.
Oh,
which you haven't seen.
That's true. It's like the one I haven't seen.
You uncultured swine.
Yeah, I guess I'll watch it. I'll go watch a Marvel movie.
Oh God! Don't shoot me down. It's too early.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I wasn't really into Black Swan, and I wasn't really into this one. I'm hoping that, Izzy, you said that you've got like a revelation, you've got an understanding possibly of what the ending meant, and I'm hoping that like inspires me to maybe go back and rewatch it. I doubt it. It might inspire me to raise it a notch or so in my rating.
You didn't care about him being torn to pieces about trying to save his wife for the whole film and failing. Nothing will make you like this movie. That is the crux of this film.
I thought you said you're no longer a hopeless romantic, Izzy.
I'm not a hopeless romantic. But that's like how, I mean, even I am moved by what he was trying to do and failing at the last second. Like, even I, right? Like, I'm bulletproof to that stuff now. And like, that movie still tears me apart. Like, it is so hard to watch, like in a good way. Like, I think Aronofsky, I think that's his gift, is capturing tragedy. I don't want to like start doing like the Izzy, film critic flamethrower double gun, like Yosemite Sam kick the doors in and be like, this is what it is. But he does. That's his strength. He captures tragedy. Right. Like, he does. Like, you saw Black Swan, right? Okay. Like, that's obviously, like, I know that that's a tragedy, even though I haven't seen it. Requiem for a Dream, tragedy, like all of it. You're like, you're in the very bottom of the barrel with those people and you believe it. Like, I mean, that's what he's trying to do, but if you didn't believe it, so it doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna, no version of my interpretation of what the ending is or what the scope of the film is going to change your lack of a connection to their experience.
I'm curious if my interpretation of it is the same as yours.
Oh yeah, dude.
I wasn't even inspired to try to find an interpretation. That's like how little I cared.
Right.
I just was like, okay, that was
some guy's wife is dying. Who gives a crap?
I dang it, making me.
I have a hot take. He didn't fail.
There we go. Ooh, Raheem's on. Okay, yeah.
Oh wait. Are you done, Jared? Were your initial?
No. I was just throwing that in there because everybody's kind of just throwing a little stuff.
I love that. That's good. See, this is what the conversation is going to turn into later. It'll turn into that. So first impressions, didn't like it.
Right. I do have some things that I enjoyed about it though. So I'll definitely have some likes for the next round.
Okay.
But overall, I wish I wanted to like it, and I'm not. I don't feel regret that I watched it, because I always like to watch stuff that's important to my good friends, and I know that this is one of your favorite movies, and I'm glad I checked it out for that aspect. But personally, I couldn't get into it.
Honestly, though, dude, this isn't a movie that I would choose to show people to tell them about my taste in movies. It's actually kind of a private movie for me, right? It's one that I watched alone. I usually watch it alone. I don't watch it with people. But I wanted to pick it because I think it's an incredibly strong film at what it is trying to do. It shows Hugh Jackman's acting range in a way that no other film does, right? Like, it shows an interesting and new soundtrack approach for that period. Like, I just think it has so many examples of forward movement in film. Let's put it that way. For 2006, it has so many examples of fearless forward movement in film, featuring people that have enough talent to do all of it. Whether it's the people composing it, the actors, the director, like they all had the strengths and the capabilities to move film forward in 2006 with this movie. Like that's why I suggested it. So, but yeah, if it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. You know what I mean?
All right. Are you done, Jared?
Yep.
Is that your initial? Okay. All right, Raw. Initial thoughts. Because I feel like you just want to snap. But initial thoughts.
You okay? Yeah. Wait. Well, you call me because it's kind of hard to contain my irritation with this film.
He just doesn't like sad endings.
No. Like, to me, it wasn't a sad ending to me. It really wasn't a sad ending.
I agree with you. I didn't think it was a sad ending.
I think he accomplished what he set out to accomplish, but he didn't understand. He didn't understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't understand it, but I think he accomplished what he was trying to accomplish. But anyway, initial thoughts. That movie was all over the place for me. It was. I see what they were trying to do, and it didn't quite curve. It didn't turn that corner for me. I mean, be like, okay, they accomplished what they sought out to do when you first watched this movie. The graphics was amazing, like especially at 2006 to see something like that. Just how the cinematography was, the motion of the camera, the what do you call that? The graphics of it all. Mm-hmm. I mean, it captures you, but it doesn't align with whatever the concept they was trying to go with, and the writing of it. It did not align. I felt like if you take the writing, it sounds great. If you take the concept, it sounds great, and then you have the concept, it sounds great. Separately, put them together, they didn't do a good job putting them all together. My personal opinion.
Okay.
Are we going to go 3 against 1 here? We're going to find out right now when David says his initial.
There's no way Dave doesn't like this movie.
Are you done?
Unless you want me to go off on a rant, I'm
done. No. Initial thoughts. Are you done with initial thoughts?
My leg is twitching. Yes, I'm done.
Man, it's tough. I wouldn't say, I don't know, man. I wouldn't say I didn't hate it, but man, I kind of struggled to like it, man.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I kind of struggled to like it. Like, okay. I kind of understood towards the end, like I kind of understood what they were going for. That made me understand it more. There was just like a lot that confused me along the way, like getting to that point. Yeah, confused me a lot. Like a lot of stuff I didn't get that was in it which maybe I just didn't fully understand it. But there's a lot of stuff I saw in it like that I just didn't get. Like, or why they chose to like show it the way they did.
So it was confusing as a first time viewer.
Kinda. Okay. It was pretty. I had to look up a video explaining it afterwards. I had to YouTube a video explaining it.
Now you're starting to get into why this movie was such a fat deal when it came out. And I solved it on the first watch. And I felt like big brain. I felt like galaxy brain for doing that. Yeah. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that this is, and I would talk to friends about it and be like, did you watch it? And they'd be like, yeah. And they're like, and they would say the same thing you're saying now. And I'd be like, it's this. And they'll be like, there's no way it's that. And I'm like, go watch it again. Mm-hmm. Go watch it again and believe what I just said. Mm-hmm. And then you will find no cracks. You will find no cracks in my argument. Like, and they're like, and you know, they would never watch it again because they didn't want to. Right. Yeah. But you're getting into part of why this movie was more than this movie transcends film for me, because it became a conversation outside of itself.
Right.
Right. In a way that you're like interpreting, you're trying to solve Aronofsky's interpretation of things that are covered like in almost like biblical ways. Like topics.
Oh, yeah. Like I noticed that for sure. I was like, man, there's some deep like religious like allegories like in this movie for sure.
It sets you up for Noah. You kind of understand why he wants to make Noah after this. At least I did. Mm-hmm. Like when I saw that he was making Noah, I was like, that doesn't surprise me. Like when they showed the preview for it when it came out, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, that's not shocking to me. And I remember people being like, why is he making a Bible story? And I'm like, because he likes big universal allegory. Like
Right.
he's drawn to that stuff. He's drawn to cosmic truth and humanity's role inside of it. He's drawn to that. I am drawn to that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's definitely one of my motives as far as like thinking, you know? So like,
Right.
But yeah, I do want to get into this conversation later about our interpretations of what the film is.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Maybe after our likes and dislikes, maybe we go and the ratings. Maybe we talk about that.
Mhm.
But okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I guess that's pretty much my.
You were like at arm's length.
I gotta agree with Jarrett. Like I felt like it was pretty long. I felt like this was like a long movie when I was watching it. It didn't feel like an hour and a half to me. It felt longer to me.
I was like holding my breath. I was on bated breath first time I watched it. Like I just could not wait to see what was going to happen next. So, okay, just different headspaces then about it. Okay.
All right. So,
likes.
Yep. Let's do it, Izzy.
Okay. I like the cinematography. I like that there is. I think this is the first movie I saw where there was a scene where everything's really dead quiet and then it snaps in when he like gets like jarred out of his thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that? He was like walking in the snow and his thoughts are obviously.
Oh yeah.
And there's traffic and stuff going by, and you don't really think about it until he almost gets hit. And then you hear all the traffic in the city noise like pop in, like you know, that's the first time I've ever seen that done, and it was cool. It like had, so I like that. I like all the period piece stuff, like the God, just some of the camera shots. The fact that they shot from the top when that monk is digging in the ground in the middle of the jungle in the rain at night. The camera comes down from his back, and you see all the raindrops coming down like this. Like there's a few shots like that I'm just like, I have never seen that in a movie. Like never have I seen that in a movie. That is like, I don't know. I like that. My favorite thing about the movie is the fact that Hugh Jackman is playing a guy who is so consumed with saving his wife that he's neglecting his wife, right? That's basically the short version of the movie. Mm-hmm. But he never truly neglects her. Every time she's like, hey, she'll interrupt him a bunch to try to get him back to, you know, I'm right here right now. She'll do that. And every time she does that, it works. And he remembers what she said, which shows that he's actually a good husband. Right? He actually, he'll be like, oh, you're talking about this? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, and you're like, wow, that was lost on me the first time I watched it. And like this watch through, I was like, wow, I really like that he's not just like, will you stop trying to like get me back into this? I got to save your life. He didn't do that. He would always cut it when she was ready to be done and just be right back there with her until, you know, he's like, whoa, you're in your bare feet out in the cold. You got to come inside. Like, you know, he would still take care of her and stuff, but like he would start every interaction being kind of like dismissive because he's so consumed and upset. And then she would snap him out of it, which is like, wow, to me, it bridged the gap of being like, wow, he really does treasure her. He's not just obsessed with trying to save her. He actually does really love her. And in fact, that's shown in the most dramatic way when she's like, stay with me tonight in the hospital room. And you know, if he says yes to staying with her that night, she dies.
Right. Because
he's had a breakthrough at the office and he really needs like a major breakthrough at the office. In fact, it's like literally she dies right before that lady runs in and it's like, it worked. The tumor's gone. That she dies like right then, right? And it's like, and so to me, I was like, wow, he said, okay, yeah, I'll stay with you. And he does. And I was like, man, it made a different impression on me than like the obsessed scientist. That was like probably my favorite thing about the movie. So soundtrack was still, I mean, I like Mogwai kind of.
Oh, is that who it is?
Huh?
I didn't realize that that's who it was.
Yeah, Mogwai did the soundtrack, and that was like the first time you had like a post-rock band doing like a big shoegazy like soundtrack underneath like some symphonic stuff. But you know, and honestly, it had themes that reminded me of some of the musicality like and concepts that were going on in Interstellar. Maybe it's because we just watched it, but going to that and then back to this, I kind of was like hearing like these weird like kind of, you know how it's like sitting back there humming its theme quietly while they're having dialogue and stuff. That's kind of happening in Interstellar too, where they're talking, you hear the organ still kind of doing their low and droney thing, doing the theme of the film, right? So I don't know, I like that stuff, but and I liked the ending like a lot. So those, I mean, and I still think it's Hugh Jackman's best performance. I'm doubling down on that. After
he did a good job. He did a good job.
He will. His range in this film is everything: the anger, the grief, the happiness. Like when he's with her and they're like talking about something they both like. You know what I mean? Him like really paying attention to her. Like his body language is right there without seeming like over the top. She's good too. What's crazy is like his superior. I didn't realize this. That's she plays old lady Murph in Interstellar. The lady that's like, Tommy, what are you doing here? Like his boss. That's Murph as an old lady in Interstellar. That's the same actress.
Wait, who?
That's dope.
His boss.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I was like,
okay,
I knew I recognized her from something too. When I watched Interstellar, I was like, God, I've seen her somewhere, and I don't know what it is, and I just kind of like threw it away. And I was like, oh God, that's her. So anyway, but that's basically my likes. I basically like the whole movie. I basically like what it tried to do because I think it nailed it to the wall. So, okay, that's my likes.
Okay, Jared.
Izzy, even when I don't agree with you, I love hearing you talk about something you're passionate about.
But
no, there's no but. You've got a great way of expressing yourself, and like you bring up stuff that, you know, you're totally right. Like I forgot about that one scene. I did notice the sound was gone. I thought that there was something wrong with my surround sound. Like, why all of a sudden is
that's
there
how
no
artsy
noise?
it is.
And it took it when it punched in. I was like, okay, that was intentional. No, that was good. That was a good scene. I actually really did like the music, and that it kind of struck me because we've talked before about how music normally makes me care about the people, and it hits that, you know, heartstring of mine. But even though I really, really liked the music, it still didn't inspire me to care about the characters or where it was going.
God, dude, even that part when she keeps showing up and interrupting him, and he's like, just leave me alone, dude. And like he just can't. He's been in space for how many years, exposed to her ghost, and he just crumbling in that moment near the end of the movie. And he's like, he just can't. Like, how did you feel nothing right then? I just don't understand it. Like,
well, I was having a hard time even figuring out if that was her ghost or if he had taken her with him on this journey to find. So yeah, I think if that's obvious and completely clear, then I had checked out way before that.
I guess maybe it's not super obvious. I figured kind of what was going on with the tree thing when like he got real close to the tree and talked and the hairs came up, and then he did the same thing with her and like he talked on her neck and the hair came up.
So
I was like, okay, I see what they're doing.
Right.
So good.
So what were they doing? Was she
Well, she told that story in the beginning, right? Like about how the bird ate, or I think it was the bird. She said ate part of the tree, so it became the tree or something like that. So
okay, so
I'm assuming she
this
was
tree that he was traveling
the
the galaxy with was the seed that he planted on her grave.
Right.
I think so.
Right.
Okay.
That's how I understood.
I think that tree was his wife, and he was taking her to Jabulba.
It wasn't the initial.
There's no, I think
the initial.
that tree is his wife.
Right.
Okay, it wasn't the initial tree of life. Okay.
No,
that was her. Yeah.
All right. That was probably obvious, and it just hit me. Sorry.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It took a lot of people a long time to like try to come to that, and even some people still kind of sort of disagree with like the ending of the movie. They think it's there's all. I mean, if you look up interpretations, you might see still some that conflict with what I think the movie's doing. But
the other things I liked was, again, the visuals. Like I could seriously watch. I would rather watch this movie as a 20-minute like music video of just the best parts of the songs with the best visuals of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it was gorgeous. It really was. Like,
oh, you could almost buy the soundtrack and it would be like an album, a Mogwai album. It would just sound like one. You know what I mean? That's how they are.
The other scene I really liked was, and I didn't see it coming at all, I probably should have, was when he drank the sap and ended up getting consumed by
all the flowers. And,
yes. Yeah. That scene was done really well to me. I liked the music that was behind it. I liked the intensity, the surprise. I felt like, oh, finally, okay, something's happening in this movie that I've been sitting and waiting for something to happen for an hour and 15 minutes. But I jumped in at that point. I was like,
just on a side note, because I think none of you have seen Mother, right?
I still haven't seen Mother.
Imagine that scene, like the entire movie of Mother. Like the whole movie is like that.
Is that Aronofsky?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Dude, I love that movie. I love it.
Do Jennifer Lawrence. I think that's what kept me away from it. Like I just can't do her. But like, I mean, I'll watch it. I love him. I love Aronofsky, man.
She might surprise you.
I doubt it. but I'll still watch it. I'm so mean. Whatever.
I agree with Izzy on that one.
Man, she's not great.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, okay. You got any more there, buddy?
I think that's it.
I want to get into the dislikes.
The visuals, the soundtrack, and that scene were my three favorite things.
Okay.
All right, Ra.
I think that they did an excellent job on the visual effects. It's like I separated the three things that attracted me to a movie was, visually, writing, and then, the actual concept of the movie. You have all those three things combined, and it all makes sense. Then yeah, it's an excellent film. So I'm going to talk about the three things that I like in those three different categories. One of them, visually, every single scene visually was pretty spot on. It was really, really, really good. Like I feel like I can watch it without sound.
It's almost a movie you could watch on mute.
You know what I mean? Like.
It's so good looking.
You can try to figure out what they're trying to do. That's what I felt like they was trying to do, and then they added words. There was one scene that stuck out to me the most when he finally flashed on his director, in the whole doctor scene, whatever, and she was like, "What are you trying to do?" He said, "What the F you think I'm trying to do?"
Oh, she's like, "Why are you here?" Because she's at the hospital, right?
Yeah. Why are you here? Yeah. Why do you think I'm here? Like, you know what I mean? Like that to me really showed that the heightened part of his frustration because nobody understands.
Everybody was being like, "Wow, you're a yucky bad husband because you're not with her."
But yet,
just accepting that she's dying. Like that's totally what everyone was giving those side eyes to him, and he was not having it because he was a good husband.
I think too, like in that scene is as she was saying this to him, and he finally flashed on her, which you kind of feel some type of tension between those two.
Yeah.
He finally flashed on her, but he also had that same look and remorse that he had with his wife.
Yeah.
After he flashed, you know what I mean? But that scene to me was dope because it showed a husband who was frustrated, who he's in the field of making people healthy, and he can't fix his wife.
And he's really close to a breakthrough. That's really important.
Well,
they're right at the edge of it. They're just like rubbing shoulders with it the whole movie.
He feels like that. Like it's right there, right? They're making you feel like he's right there. He's right there. Was making him hold on even harder for him to get to that point. And so he cussed out his boss and everything calmed down, and he realized, like, you know what? Okay, let me spend time with my wife. But that time could have costed that certain amount of time for him to actually find a cure on time, which is the funny part. But anyways, that scene to me was a pinnacle part of the film, in my personal opinion. So I like that part. The overall concept of that film is amazing. Sticking with the positives, I mean, just the concept of being infinite, right? You're trying to find a life that's infinite, trying to find a cure to life, right? My dad died of cancer, but I wasn't attached to this film. I didn't attach myself to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But seeing that, okay, you have this tree of life in a literal sense, right? And they're flashing back and forth from time, showing that this is an infinite tree of, and then same thing with love. Love is infinite.
Right.
We have all these things combined. I mean, like that concept, and then going on to the future, and then the space scene. I'm really trying to figure, like, okay, so like, what is this? Like, is this? Did you reach the climax? Or are you reaching the climax of what life really is? You know what I'm saying? So it had a whole lot of meat to it, but I felt like it just did not. I won't get into the dislikes. Anyways,
we're gonna do that next.
The concept was great. The writing was great, and the visual was great.
Okay, you're all done.
Yep.
Likes, yeah. I mean, I think it was shot well. I think visually it looked good. I thought Hugh Jackman acted his butt off in it. I thought Rachel Weisz did a good job too, and I think pretty much everyone I felt like did that had a role in it. Like I think all around the acting.
How weird was that?
Really good. I know, right?
They're both doing American accents, and then not doing American, and you totally buy it. Like,
right.
Cool.
I think Rachel Weisz did a good job as convincing as playing a sick woman in it. I think she did a good job. Right. Yeah. I think the concept of it is dope. I guess I could get into likes. Like for me personally, like I feel like Darren's movies are like always about obsession. Like he always has a theme of like obsession in his movies.
Oh, dude, totally with Pie and
yeah,
sure.
Black Swan.
Black Swan. Yeah, this one, like I felt like the guy was so obsessed with trying to fix his wife and like find the cure for that. He was missing out on the moments of just like being with her.
She's just trying to be married.
Right. She's like he's trying. To me, maybe I'm off, but I felt like he was so focused on trying to like cheat death in the movie. Like he was trying to find a solution to death. And she's like, there's no solution to this. Like, I'm going to die. Like, you need to spend time with me while you can because I'm going to die. And he's like, well, I need to. He was so obsessed with finding a cure. And because he even says it in the movie several times. It's like, the goal is to like stop death, like stop aging and stop death in the movie.
Well, and that explains why he keeps replaying that one thing in his head.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that he shuts her down when she's like, "Come walk with me. Let's go on a walk." The first
and then he chooses the other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely why he just keeps guilting and shaming himself over that after the fact. That one moment is just like, "Oh my god, I missed out on just like going on a walk with my wife, and it wouldn't have mattered." Like I totally, you know what I mean? Like,
right. I also liked. I don't know if this was like this was a theme I kind of picked up in the movie. I was watching it today with some friends. I don't know if this is part of like something you noticed in it too, is it or not? Maybe I'm just making it up. But I noticed this in Mother too. But I felt like there's a really strong like Adam and Eve kind of theme in this movie. Like she was oh man, now I forgot. I should have wrote it down.
She even says that
she was the one.
She's the queen. She's like, I'll be your Eve.
Right. Like she was the one that was like dying, and she like I'm trying to remember how I was talking about it with a friend right after I watched it, and he put out this Adam and Eve like parallel to it, and it was like so
it was spot on.
Yeah, it was. I'll have to message him after and see, but I noticed the theme of it in this one because I noticed it in Mother. It's like heavy, like super heavy. Okay. But yeah, I like the idea of it. I like the concept of it. I like for me, at least the concept that I got from it was like obsession and how, like towards the end, I felt like he finally let go of that obsession and he decided like there's nothing he can do to avoid death. So he kind of like just accepted it.
Yeah.
Did he?
I don't think that's. I don't agree with you at all right there on that last statement.
Was he with her at the end of the movie? Like were they both dead and together?
Not quite.
Okay. Maybe
that's not what I think. But yeah, I don't think he let go of that obsession at all. I think he doubled down on it after she died. Actually,
really,
and that's why you see the cosmic scenes. The cosmic scenes are the result of his being adamant about taking a course to fix it. Right. I mean, kind of. It ends up taking a turn. I guess we can just get into it. I mean, that's why.
Because he doesn't fix it, though.
I mean, she's technically still alive, and so is he, because he's eating the bark. He's found the tree that fixes death. He's found it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because they fixed the monkey. Keep that in mind. Right. They're like, the tumor's gone. And that is from what? A tree from South America. They say that. The doctor's like, oh, the tree sample from South America, right? So what's he do? I think what he does is he goes to that tree and plants that tree on her grave. That tree.
Yes.
And that's why he's eating parts of her to survive, right? But the whole point is to get his wife to Xibalba before she dies. Mm-hmm. But he fails. The tree dies seconds before he gets there, and that's why he's like, no. Like, then he's like running, and you can see the tree like shriveling. She totally dies. And part of the reason she dies is because he has to keep feeding off of her to survive himself. So again, he outlives her in that movie twice. Right. And it's in both cases, he's obsessed with maintaining her life and failed both times. Both cases. It is so tragic. It is like the pinnacle of tragedy to me. That story. But yeah, so I don't think he lets go of it. I low key high key disagree with that. I don't think he lets go. High key. Yeah. I think because you see, I mean, think about it. He storms off in the middle of her eulogy. Mm-hmm. He's like, this is bullshit. He pretty much just walks off, and she's like, whoa, Tommy. She stops the eulogy and goes and chases him. He's like, no, and he's just not having it.
Right.
He's not being like, yeah, I know you're right. I'm accepting that she died and I couldn't save her.
That doesn't remind you of Prestige?
The obsession part, kinda. Yeah, Hugh Jackman's good at that, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I mean to hijack your thing.
No, you're fine. But yeah, those are my main likes of it.
All right, okay, let's do dislikes.
All right, let's do it. All right, Izzy, kick us off.
I really almost don't have any. I wish that they had used a little less of the sepia filter on the rewatch. It served its purpose in 2006, but now I would have liked to have seen a little more color in the film. But I'm also the guy that thinks that the Hobbit trilogy is better than Lord of the Rings because the color palette is 10 times better. Alone, that's why I like it better. Anyways, I wish the movie had been a little more colorful, but I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it. But this time around, I was kind of like, oh man, I wish it could have been a little more colorful. And I wish that the soundtrack aged better. It definitely feels like a mid-2000s post-rock album to me, which kind of nobody does that anymore. That genre isn't really alive and kicking in a way that's meaningful. So soundtrack felt a little dated, even though it felt adventurous at the time. So they turned into dislikes for me. But that's it. That's those are the only two things. So okay, guys, have at it. It's pinata time.
All right, Jared.
It's
actually really hard for me to pin down what I didn't like. It was just kind of just the whole feel that it didn't make me care, and then it didn't make me care enough to try to get me to figure out what was going on. I'm glad you brought up that point where he took the last piece of bark right before, if you knew that every time
that moment is soul crushing when you know what's going on.
That every time you took a piece of that tree, though, you were taking a risk.
That's it. And and that's why he apologizes every time he says something. He's just a little more
But he was right there. Could he have not just waited till he took that last one that actually did it in?
Well, I mean, we don't know how far they were.
That's true. We don't know.
Why was he
right there when you're talking about
pieces of?
Because he would have died of old age without doing it. The tree is what prolongs your life.
Right.
The sap from that tree. So he would have died and not made it to Xibalba with her if he hadn't stayed alive.
The tree needs sustainable water. There wasn't sustainable water there, so he had to take as little as possible for him to survive.
I remember thinking that. I'm like, and you're right. We don't know the distance of time. It's because when you're out there for an eternity, we're almost there. It could mean we're 1,000 years from there, right? I mean,
well, we do know that he tattooed himself. He tattooed a ring every year on his body.
Okay, that was cool. I wanted to talk about that.
That's how many years he was up there. If you look at his arms and stuff, that's every ring, starting from the first ring, based on the wedding ring he lost out of grief. He tattoos that ring first. Then he plants the tree, and then when he finally starts, he basically gives himself a ring every year he's apart from her.
And it was like the rings of a tree, right?
Yeah. What?
It was like the rings of a tree, where some are thinner because they show a tough year, and others were thicker.
I think that was the allegory.
There's more growth.
Jared, I feel like you would actually like this film if you would have just invested yourself a little bit in it, because every time Izzy brings up a point, You're like, oh, that was a good point. I wish
I think he just didn't care about their marriage.
I feel like you need to watch it again. Like give it its just due. Watch it again, and then whatever input that was here tonight, just kind of think about that as you're watching it. I think you will enjoy the film more than what you did today or whenever you watched it.
Maybe. I really just don't think he cares about them as a couple. And it's like, I get it, because I don't like Requiem for a Dream or Breaking Bad, because I don't give a crap about any of those characters or what they're going through. I don't care how well it's made. I can't get there, right? So I get it. I hear you too, though, Raheem, because Jared is being like, "Whoa, what?" I see both sides. I see both sides. I understand what it feels like to not care about the story or the people in a well-made thing. I do understand that predicament. To be like, wow, why don't I like this? Oh, that's right. I don't give a crap.
You did bring up earlier too, where were you at the time that this movie was made?
What were you watching?
Where you were in your life, and that does make a difference to me.
Yeah.
And it could go from year to year. It could go from week to week. If I just wasn't in the mood for this movie right now, it might not grab me. But as we talked about with 7 pounds, it was like I was pissed at first because he just was. I thought that it was all about his wife, and he just had given up on life because she died, and that was everything to him. It was the whole soulmate type thing, and this also was that way, because it's like, okay, you know what? People die. We become widows, and some of us move on and find somebody else, because there are a lot of fish in the sea, and the fact that we're going to find the right one is astronomical, or even possibly not even a thing, right?
They did a good job in this movie of making you believe that it's Hugh Jackman's not going to go look in that sea, though. Rachel Weisz was it for him. I had no question that he was gonna not move on. That relationship was. I
see that as a weakness in a person.
Whoa!
When you can just say this is my one and only, and maybe it's because
what if it is, though?
Basically on my second divorce, but it's like, there are other people out there that you can really have a connection with.
I feel like you wouldn't feel that way if you met your one and only, dude.
Maybe.
That feels like a little bit of projecting onto the film. You know what I mean? Which is fine. You're allowed to do that. I do it all the time.
The chances of anybody meeting their one and only when there are so many people on the planet.
I mean, yeah, Raheem's a good example. They're crazy about each other. There's no.
No, not me. Not me.
Listen, he shuts me down. I think you guys look like you're nuts for each other, and he's just like, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
My mother is a one marriage person. She hasn't been married since. She hasn't been with anybody else since. And my dad died at the age of 33 from cancer. 33 from cancer, and she's been single this whole time since then. She can't.
Jared said it's a weakness.
She can't feel like she can be with somebody else. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like there's some people who have a connection.
Granddaughter.
And if we're going to be real with this, there is scientific proof when you are so in love with somebody and you grow old with them. When one mate dies, the other one dies shortly after that.
Right. It's a broken heart thing.
There's a thing that there's a certain bond that happens. I wasn't shooting on my wife. My wife and I think we're infinite. I think we're infinite. You know what I'm saying? But it takes work. We were crazy. I'm not even gonna get into this because this is something personal. But we were crazy starting off. Crazy. I was crazy being single. She was crazy being single. And you get two crazy people getting together, and we're just being crazy. And then we're like, okay, crap. We can't just keep doing this. we gotta figure something out. And that's what ended up happening. And then we just slowly start to learn each other more and more and more. Because I really think that we got married just because we just wanted to get married.
Basically, Jared, you would have been more into the movie if he would have just let her die and tried to move on. If that was the movie,
no. But when that's the
what are you saying,
thing, when that's the main thing that's driving the movie, I guess I just kind of lose interest.
Their connection.
Yeah, it becomes about a romance and you know, a one and only person and a soulmate, and it just.
Man, you don't like that stuff, huh? I still.
Well, I thought that you didn't either. You've talked about. I remember you being a hopeless romantic when we were young, and you said that's gone. But the fact that this movie,
I don't think it'll happen for me. Is what I mean. I still am completely drawn to those concepts. Like they still draw me. Like probably because I don't have it. You know what I mean? Like that stuff is like that stuff really still resonates to me when that's a topic for sure. Even though I know it's like. I wouldn't want to say unrealistic, but probably I'll say it's rare, right? But I'm still. I mean, that's why I still haven't gotten married. I'm like, we're all going to get real here. Like I am holding out for that. I'm still waiting for that because I've seen it in real life. I've seen it, so I know it exists. You know what I mean? So like that's why this movie got its claws in me and never let go for sure. I want that. And I know it's possible if I'm patient enough. Like I want what Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz have, even if she's dying.
It's possible with work. It's not.
No, I don't think I'm owed it. I don't think it's going to be like a fish that falls in my lap out of the sky or something.
Okay, I'm glad you say that because it's like.
But I'm not.
Hollywood is Hollywood.
Just because it takes work doesn't mean I'm going to be impatient and marry the wrong woman either.
Right.
No. But okay, so. There's a person that I know. I was getting ready to bust him out. I ain't gonna do that. There's a person that I know, right, who have he's had great relationships, and then he end up finding some fault and then moving on. You know what I'm saying? Or they'll have a disagreement and he'll move on. I'm like, you're not going to find somebody who's going to. Why would you want to find somebody who agrees with everything?
I want them to agree. You know, like
but I'm saying in every sense of agreement. Like you need conflict in a sense in your relationship. You need somebody to check you for who you are and for you to check them for who they are, so that you two can combine one person, one flesh. That's the whole concept of marriage. Like you have your personal life, you have your upbringing that she has no clue about, right?
Right.
The way you view things is not the way she view things. Like even if you guys have some similarities of viewing some things the same way, she still doesn't view it the same exact way you view it. So you have two individuals coming together and having to make it work. And that's it. That's the whole thing. We have to say, okay, we're not going to quit. We're going to find something to keep falling in love with. And so that's where my wife and I are at. Like we keep trying to find things to fall in love with. And then each year we just grow and grow and grow and grow.
I believe you. I still think that there's just I think that there's the possibility to find someone that you're just completely crazy about, and it's a two-way street. Like I've seen it. I just think it's out there, and I think that when movies tackle it in a way that's tragic, it's like really resonant for me. So. But Jared's like total opposite, right? He's like, that's so unrealistic and so stupid, and I'm not interested. But the soundtrack's pretty good.
Wow. Dude,
get that fake love crap out of here.
I know what love is.
Jared's like, can you be my soundtrack? If you could be my soundtrack, then I'll fall in love with you.
There you go. Yeah, you need to be with a musician.
That could be a thing. No, that's that. We're still. We were just, that was all my dislikes, right?
Okay.
Like that was the ending of my dislikes. Okay. We went off on a tangent, but I think that's all I got. I can't really pinpoint something other than that. It didn't resonate with me because of that whole dynamic.
Right.
Okay.
What you liked. It seems like that's almost the case for all three of you guys. Like where you're just like, the story didn't grab me, but man, it was done well. Like that kind of a thing. I want to hear Raheem's though. I want to hear Raheem's dislikes because he's gonna go for it. He's gonna get
go ahead, Raheem. we only got a half hour left, so.
All right. Crap. I gotta be brief then. Like I said, like you have a great concept, you have great writing, and then you have great cinematography, but none of those three matched up in the entire film for me. There was little spurts where I said my likes were. There were little spurts that kind of connected, and I connected with the film. But outside of that, like I see my dad die from cancer. I see how the effects of it was. That was unrealistic. I'm sorry. It was beyond unrealistic, her actions. So to me, that acting on her being cancerous or having some type of form of cancer was BS. Complete BS. I did not attach to it. It was like, oh, okay, she's sick. That was it.
Right.
Like you die that soon, right? Which means you should have been in a certain stage of cancer.
Well, she did spend all of her effort trying to make Hugh Jackman not worry about her.
Listen,
until she collapsed in a museum and then was in the hospital until she died like the next day. So I think she was probably farther along than she was leading on.
I know that you want this to make sense to you. I get that.
I have no problem believing it. Yeah, I bought it.
Yeah, like you want it to make sense, but psychologically, physically, emotionally, I firsthand see what it does. Even when you have a buckle of people behind you loving you, it's just when your body cannot communicate for you.
Right.
That's where she should have been at a long time ago. This whole thing. So, which made me hope to think that, well, maybe this is in his mind. Maybe all this stuff is going on in his mind because he needs to continue on in his experiments trying to get the cure, for whatever reason, even though she's already a lost cause. I don't know. But this movie was so all over the place. It didn't allow you to follow it fluently to where you could be like, oh, okay. So it didn't grab.
It was showing 3 different timelines. Yeah. I mean, it was jumping between those like a lot.
It was jumping a lot, but you can still connect through those timelines. And they didn't do that. They just did not connect me enough to where it grabbed me to make me feel for the individual who was sick, or make me feel for Hugh Jackman, who was going through something that he can possibly fix, and it happened to be his wife. It's like I wanted to feel the connection. I did not feel the connection, and it was just like it just stuck me. And it may be because, again, like Jared has a personal thing from his life. Maybe it's personal for me because I've watched somebody who has died from cancer like that.
Right. So what's happened? Yeah, that makes sense. Though. Like where like you guys are projecting your own experiences of a similar thing onto the film, and then the film comes up short because it wasn't like your experience. Whereas I have had no experience with any of this stuff, so I can completely believe it. I have never been married. I have never had a family member die from an illness. Right. So I'm not comparing my experiences to the film and then finding where it doesn't line up and then being like, well, the film's bad. Right. That's not happening with me. I'm unique in that position, probably with all 3 of us, honestly. Right.
Well, then that makes it a fairy tale to you then, because
that's what a movie is, right? It's a fantasy movie.
Not
necessarily. Flying through space with an eternal tree,
not necessarily. Yeah. What films do, they try to grab you, right? And it's just like anything, right? We're talking about comedians. We are attracted to some comedians because they attach to our lives in a certain way, whatever jokes that they're making, right? That we can identify.
Yeah, common ground is a big thing for you for sure. I've noticed that just since we started the channel. Like that's a major thing for you.
Yeah, it is a big thing, but I know how to separate them when I know a film is supposed to be a certain thing. But when you take a serious film, it's supposed to be serious. This is a serious film. We're talking about death. We're talking about cancer. We're talking about somebody who's trying to find who's not trying to find a cure for cancer.
Right.
It's like there's thousands and millions of people who have died from it. So I take this seriously. Okay, so are you going to give me the real life experience of a cancer patient? You know what I'm saying? Like, give me that. That would have drew me in, like all the way in. So who there was like millions of people who have been affected by cancer, people who have died, people who have been experienced, who are watching the same film. How would they react? Would it be like, oh, okay, this is BS? Or is like,
I feel like everyone's experience with cancer is probably different too, though. There's different kinds of cancer. There's different stages of it. There's remission, right? Like no one has the same experience even with it. So
that is absolutely true. Everybody's experience. I mean, everybody's, and that's what I started this off with. Everybody's experience is different. Whether we go, my brothers and my sister and I, we have the same experience, right? But we all
with your dad
but we all have a different outcome in our minds of how it happened or what happened, our emotions, what my mom went through at the time when we had the phone call, when he finally passed. Like, we all say something different, so we take in things differently and we output it differently, right?
Right.
The same thing with films. We all have a certain niche for it. We all have a certain thing for it. And my thing is just like what David Avery was saying when it comes to, you know, being back in those times of the medieval times, whatever. It's like, why aren't they speaking in that, you know, that certain dialogue? You know what I mean? It's like, it makes it more
for the audience's
real.
sake.
It just makes it more real. And 2006, I get it. Like, but if you make that film now, like if that film never existed and it came out now, I can guarantee you they would have the dialogue, they have everything, because we like to be attached to the realism. The more real it is, the more it's going to draw us in, and the more we're going to be attached to it.
Right.
And
unless it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, it was plenty realistic for me, but again, like, also, I mean, we could say that about Jared too, where like, you know, nobody's marriage is the same. Everyone has a different experience with marriage. So like, there are probably married people that watch this movie and think it's a pretty good representation of what it's like to be married. You know, like it just depends on the marriage. Like the movie isn't wrong, right? It just didn't portray the version of her sickness or their marriage that you guys experienced.
Yeah.
So it made the movie come up short for you.
It did. Right? Like it really did come up.
It just comes down to common ground again. Like it just comes back down to that. And I'm starting at 0 when it comes to those topics.
Yeah.
So in a way I'm liberated. In a way I'm free to just experience the movie. Right? Without putting my own experience on it and then finding the movie lacking. Maybe that's why I like it so much. Right?
I can completely agree with that. I mean, for me, I like to be attached to something when it comes to movies, period. I like to, like, even if it's like a spoof or a funny, like, I want to find some type of attachment for me to enjoy it.
Brothers.
So my last like, because I know I only had 30, I only had less.
I want to hear Dave's dislikes because I feel like he's going to go.
My last dislike was I did not like the acting of the girl, the
Rachel Weisz.
Yes, I didn't like it at all.
Really? Wow.
Nope, didn't like it at all. Didn't like it at all. Like, she didn't portray to me to be a sick person. Even when she, I didn't like her at all. I'm gonna cut it off from right there. I don't want to get into that. I would talk for a moment. Time. I am done. Dave, your turn.
Okay.
My dislikes, I gotta agree. It was hard for me to get attached to them, like as a couple. Like I just didn't buy it, and I think a big part of the reason I didn't buy it, which I'm sure maybe the way I viewed it was differently. Maybe it's, I don't know, like because I view marriage differently and stuff like that, and like couples and stuff like that. But I felt like I don't want to say like it should have been done differently, because the director's going to make a movie, they want to make the movie, right? But for me,
he wrote part of it too. Like
right.
This is Darron Aronofsky like wrote this movie partially with someone else, but.
But like for me, like if Hugh, whatever his name, if the guy had been in the movie and like he had tried everything he could to fix her and it just didn't work, and like if he came to her and was like, he was just completely heartbroken, like I did everything I could, I can't stop this or whatever, and he had spent those moments with her, and like I think that would have had more of an impact to me. But I almost feel like to a point like he cared more about fixing his wife than about his wife. Like he cared more about the goal of fixing her, which I'm sure is a thing about it. But I was just like that made me not care too much about them, because I feel like he genuinely didn't care that much about her. I felt like he cared more about fixing her. Like even after she was in her grave, like she was 6 feet under, he was like, he's like, I'm gonna fix this. He's like, I'm gonna find a way to fix this. I'm like, dude, like part of the reason she's in there right now and you have like such a disconnect is because you didn't spend any time with her when you should have when she was alive. Like you chose to spend your nights fixing that stupid monkey instead of like, you know, being with your dying wife when she's dying of cancer. Like what don't you get about it, man? Like what don't you get about it? Like I feel like he cared more about fixing her than being with her.
Totally.
Which, like,
I think
really
that's
made me
definitely
like, I was just like,
points, yeah.
which made me dislike his character a ton. Which I don't know if that was the goal of the movie or not, but it made me dislike his character a ton.
I think one of the, you know, parts of the plot is that they drive that exact thing you just said home basically twice.
Mm-hmm.
With her dying and the tree dying. It's like still he's focused on fixing the thing, right? Kind of in a weird way. I feel like in the second part of like the outer space part isn't so much him trying to fix her as just to get her to Xibalba before she dies.
Right. Because once
like,
he gets her there, she would have lived, right?
I don't know about that. I think that was just. I think to me, I don't think it was that was the answer to eternal life was getting to that star. I think that she was just he knew that was something that she treasured as far as like the Mayan mythology and stuff, and it was a tangible thing that he could see in the sky, right? So he's like, well, I can take her there, and I can live as long as I can feed on her to take her there.
Right.
I think that's kind of like basically what happens there from the year 2500 or wherever.
Right.
But I don't think the star was meant to make them immortal, because I think you do see the nebula actually kill him. Like he basically melts. Like, you know what I mean? Like on the music.
Right.
I don't know if he actually melted.
I'm like, so what was the point of like? Did he not know eating the tree was hurting her? Was hurting the tree?
He did know, because he apologized every time he took apart. He was like, just one more.
So I'm like, what was the point, man? I'm like, so if you really loved your wife, if the actual reason of this whole thing is that you're doing it, just die and let her get there. Just die and let her get there.
Oh, that's true.
Why are you purposely hurting her just so you can live too, and like to get to that point too? Like it's like I'm like, I don't know. That's part of the reason I just didn't feel the connection with them, because I'm like, if you really wanted, if this was really all about her, you were so obsessed with this because you just had to fix her, then just die and let her go.
You know what the weird implication to me is too about that movie is, then by the year 2500, that means he actually like cured death, right?
Yeah.
He actually cured it. They found the tree, the tumors were fixed, so that means he actually did what he said he was going to do. As long as those people have access to those trees or that sap, nobody on Earth is dying anymore, right? But he can't bring her back, so he's like, well, I'm going to take
cancer, but he didn't cure death.
Huh?
He didn't kill ultimate death. He cured cancer.
I think he cured death, because that if that actually is the tree of life from South America, then it's the idea that the story's telling in the beginning, all the prequel stuff, is that it will like cure stuff. Although, or it would make, I think the him turning into a tree is Hugh Jackman's ending that he wrote for Rachel when she was, after she died. She's like, write the ending. He's like, I don't know how it ends, right? You know, and she's like, well, you better figure it out. And I think that's the ending he wrote, is the conquistador finds the tree of life, but it kills him. Right? Like that's what I took from that. That's the ending that he wrote to that book.
He didn't die though.
Yeah, he did. He turned into plants.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not living. You're not conscious of anything anymore.
Plants are a living thing. You can
but they don't have conscious thought. His thoughts perished. Like he definitely died, and plants overtake him. Plants killed him. Like, that's the way I looked at that. Like, I guess. You got any more dislikes, Dave?
No, I guess that was the main. It just like, I like the concept of it. I just feel like it wasn't. I don't know. I feel like the depth of some of the ideas kind of like collapsed on themselves. Like it almost went a little too deep, I think, in a lot of ways. But that's it. And also, just one more thing. When I was watching it, the white sap coming out of the tree, I was like, really?
Oh, yeah,
Y'all couldn't have made it a different color. Yeah. Like he picked up that sap on his hand, and I was like, oh my God, really? And then
and also when he looks up,
I was like, come on, man.
Well,
come on,
man. I noticed
you couldn't have made it like green or red.
Yeah, afterwards when he looked up, there wasn't any like on his beard or anything, and I was like, oh, thank God. Like I was like, okay.
As soon as he came down and he put it on his hand, and he was looking at it, I was like, come on, bro.
That was funny.
Tree of life.
Oh,
so yeah, I guess that was my main issue. I just had a hard time. I'm like, I guess I'm kind of like that. I had a hard time, like,
all three of you had a hard time
caring about it. Yeah,
like
really caring about it.
It's just a connection. That was the only thing. It was just connecting to it, but
you guys all,
the idea of it is great. I think the idea about death and like his obsession with trying to fix it, and like him missing the opportunities, like spend time with his wife. I think those ideas of it, I think, are great.
Okay. Want to do ratings?
Let's do it. All right, Izzy.
I'll give it a 9.
9? Ooh, dang! You really love this movie.
I
you
almost
said you've
gave
seen
it a 10,
it a bunch.
like I've always thought of it as a 10. I wanted to show you guys like something that I thought was artistic and elevated film, like, you know what I mean? But like, I watched it this time and I was like, oh, the soundtrack feels a little dated and kind of some of the filters are just kind of redundant. So I had to dock it. So I'm giving it a 9 at this point.
Okay. Jared?
Because of the visuals and the music, I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
All right. Rob?
That's actually higher than I thought you would go.
Yeah, I did too. The way you was talking. I thought you was going to go higher, to be honest, because after
never thought you would give it a 6 ever.
Izzy's convincing argument, I thought he was going to go like at least 8.
I don't think what I'm saying is arguments. I just think I'm good at making my case very clear.
No. Like what we do is discuss and argue. That's all we do. I'm just being light.
Well, did we already say what you like? What your interpretation of the ending is? We already.
No, I want to do that after the ratings.
Yeah,
we still have that. Okay.
I mean, we kind of did, but
yeah, kind of.
That's last.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change it. I think that 6 is where I've been from pretty much the beginning, just because I want to give it credit for being a beautiful movie. It is beautiful, but it's just not. It's just not my bag. So,
okay.
I give it a 5.
Okay,
5.
That's higher than I thought he would go.
I mean, come on, it's a 5. Just like I said, like you can watch this without any sound. Just watch it. The visual effects was so good by itself, and you just attach yourself to it. So that's one thing. But it's just you add up all the elements that's supposed to be great. But if you all these elements by themselves, you'd be like, okay, this is great. But put them together, they didn't mesh them. They didn't come together really good at all. It just didn't. So that's why I gave it a 5.
Okay.
It had potential to be a 10. Like it really did.
I think so too.
But it fell short. It fell short to me.
All right, Dave, are you going to give us the middle ground or what? What's up?
I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a 6.
Thought you were going to say 7 at least. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just, I thought visually it was good. I thought it was well acted, but it just kind of, I don't know, the kind of like the stuff between the Mayans and like the Spain stuff, and like, I don't know, it just kind of lost me like along the way.
Okay.
I feel like.
Okay.
Everything.
So my interpretation of this movie was pretty much what is basically accepted now, is that everything that you see on the screen outside of the Mayan stuff is literal. It all actually happened. And at the time, that was like really a hot take because everyone thought it was a highly metaphorical movie. And I thought the opposite. I thought the movie was entirely literal, and he was showing you 500 years in the future that Hugh Jackman figured out a way to fly into space with his wife as a tree and take her to Xibalba. And that's it. That's basically it. And like nobody thought that I talked to. They're like, no, that's all allegory. That's all like that's prophetic. And I'm like, no, that's it. I watched it a bunch now, and that's what happens. He literally plants a tree on her grave and flies her into space. Like that's actually what goes down. And because he's doing that, he's totally going insane. He's spending hundreds of years in outer space alone, only living off a tree. He's going insane and remembering the parts of his marriage that he regrets.
Yep.
And he can't stop it. And that's why he's like, please leave me alone. Like he's like at his wit's end when they're almost there, and because he can't shut it off. And that's the way that like he's talking to his wife after she's dead, and he still does talk to the tree as her, and they show those echoes and everything. But at the time, that was a really hot take. Everybody thought it was way deeper than it was because of how artsy the movie was. I think they got led too far. When you lead a horse to water, I think they got led past the water. When they watched the movie for the first few times. So, and I think obviously the legend of the tree that she was writing about from like Mayan civilization ended up being also literal because that's the tree they find to heal the monkey.
Right.
So I think basically the movie was literal. that was the intention of him. Was basically all happened. Like, except for, Hugh Jackman's ending that he wrote for The Conquistador after she died.
Right.
But that's basically it. So, but I remember questioning if that was right the first time I watched it. I remember watching it and being like, wait, did that all really? I think that all just really happened. I think that's all real. Like, but I got into a bunch of fights with a bunch of my friends about it back then.
I completely took it literally. But
Good.
Maybe that's just because I'm a sci-fi guy.
Yeah, maybe. I think also 2006 was like movies were trying to get artsy and metaphoric at the same time. Instead of telling a literal story beautifully, right? Like, so
huge art movie came out in the year right after this one.
Which one?
300.
Oh, nice, dude.
That was 2007.
That's right.
Wow.
Okay. All right. That was my pick, you guys.
Alrighty. I wouldn't say I hated it. I just wish, I guess I kind of wish for me it was done better. I'm not saying it wasn't done good, just for me. I wish it was, because I like Darron Aronofsky. I like Darron Aronofsky as a director. I like him a lot as a director.
It just really is like, oh man, it's just all about connection. Like, and I feel like I do need that too. I do need connection too, but like, it's funny to talk to you three guys, and you've all been married or watched someone get sick and die.
What's up, Aaron?
And you would think that would make you have more of a connection. You would think that would make you have more of a connection, right
to
that movie, and it made you have less of one. That is mind blowing to me. Like, that is so mind blowing to me. Like, that I had more of a connection having never gone through any of that stuff. I mean, and it makes me wonder if Darron Aronofsky's gone through any of that stuff, or if he just wrote it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it resonated with me. It was like the concept of it instead of the reality of it. Right. I don't know, man. Weird topic though. That's like, that in and of itself is like super heavy.
Yeah, it is. Right. Yeah.
Common ground concept. All right.
Gosh. Izzy, you said a lot, and I'm gonna laugh because I was laughing the whole time. His wife's name was Izzy. I kept thinking about Izzy.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I legit kept thinking about Izzy.
Oh, that is a weird movie to watch if your name's Izzy. And I never hear my name in public. Nobody's like,
never.
Like,
her name was Izzy. Yeah.
Like, you know, never. That's not. You always hear Joseph or like, you know, a normal name. Like, you never hear.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a weird movie to watch if your name's Izzy. Yeah.
I just thought it was funny. I said, I wonder if Izzy is literally dying laughing right now. Just watching.
No, I literally like. The first time they said it, I was like, okay, her name's Izzy. I'm gonna deal with it, and I just like tried to shut it off and watch the movie like day one. Like, yeah, I tried to just tune it out because I'm so used to not hearing it. I was like, that's gonna get really weird. Like, that's funny.
Oh my god, man! That made me laugh. But I had to do the same thing you did. I had to do the same thing. Okay, that's her name. My ending thoughts on the ending of the whole thing, like this the phenomenon of it is the whole premise is a tree, right? Like they keep going back to this tree, and trees in itself are infinite because they produce more trees infinitely.
Yep.
So how they show the past, the present, the future, even though he was in the future reflecting on the past, that was dope. All right. That part was dope, even though they didn't convey it that well. So I think that although that he worked his butt off to find the cure for his wife, even though that he didn't meet to that particular end for her because she died, you know. I still think that even though she died, she still lived on as they went through the nebula, whatever.
Right.
It clearly absorbed him. It absorbed his energy and whatever energy that she had left, because when you die, you still have energy in your body before you completely go out. So that's what my mind went like super far. Like, okay, I still think that he made it to that point, you know, to where he saved not only himself, he saved his wife to where they can have this certain life in an energy sense.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I thought they both made it.
I do not think she made it.
Yeah, I think they
see her die. Like
the
before.
director left it up to the point to where we can debate on this, which is what he did his job on that, in that point, to where we can debate on that matter. But I think that she still had enough energy left to where they can be some type of energy source in this nebula, whatever the case may be. But I think that was the way he was going. Trees are infinite. They continue to give life no matter what. And that was a premise. He ate from the tree. He continues to live on. He made it to the nebula, which absorbed his body as a tree, and blah, blah, blah. And I think that metaphor, when he became a tree or became a plant or whatever, he's already infinite from that point forward. Like, even though he's not, like, you know, if you're a tree, you're not going to have a mindset of how we are as humans.
You won't be conscious,
but you're living forever.
Right.
There was nothing ever said in this whole film that saying that living forever means you have to be completely non-autonomy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like,
so
there's got to be a caveat, right?
Yeah.
You're going to live forever, but not the way you think you are, right?
Right.
Exactly. It's like Aladdin wishing a bad wish. Like you wish something very, very bland, and Aladdin's just going, okay, boom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's kind of what the way they viewed Jabbalba too, actually, like in their legends, was that it like carried on life in a different way. The road to awe.
That's
right?
it.
Like,
They carried on life.
Yeah.
So I think,
it makes me think of that scripture that says like the days of a tree will the days of my people be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's like definitely like a really good like comparison there. God, he gets really biblical, doesn't he? Sometimes
very. I thought it was super
because it's infinite. A tree is infinite. It's going to continue to sprout. It's going to continue to, you know what I'm saying, grow. You know what I mean? Like seeds.
So you think he made it?
Oh yeah, he did.
That's what I thought.
He made it, but not the way he wanted to. Like, he thought that he's going to be exactly how he is and exactly how his wife used to be. That's what he thought.
How good is that music on that part too, though?
It was great. It was great.
It was good. It was real good.
That soundtrack's so good.
And I'm not a big music person when it comes to movies, so but it was great on that part, right? Like, it really shouted out on that part right there. So that was my ultimate thing right there.
Okay.
Alrighty. So, all right. Well, we appreciate you guys sticking by. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back next week with some more hot takes.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you guys next week. All right. You guys have a good one.
What is up, FourTakers? Jared here. I just want to give you a way that you can access our content without giving you a bunch of Twitter account addresses and Facebook account addresses and all that. It is one very important link that you need to remember to see all that FourTakes has to offer. If you want to listen to our podcasts by itself, if you want to watch us while you listen, if you want to check out all three of our very distinct different types of videos that we have under our playlists on YouTube, that's there. If you want to join in on the conversation live via David's Twitch on Monday nights, 8 o'clock Pacific time, that link will be there. If you want to pick the next movie that we do, we're going to do a viewer's pick monthly. That would be through our Facebook or our Twitter accounts. That will be there. If you want to monetarily contribute to us, that will be there. If you want to just check us out and see what we're doing in our everyday life and watch Izzy and David play video games, chat with them personally. If you want to watch me sing dorky Mandalorian parody videos and hang out with my granddaughter and do all sorts of goofy skits, that will be there. Everything is there, and it's under one address that you need to remember. It is linktr.ee/FourTakes. Now, the important thing is that there is a dot between the tr.ee. It is linktr.ee/ no, that's confusing. linktr.ee/FourTakes. Enjoy the show and check that out.